Watch him throw the ball, we gon' pick it off. You gon' let him hit the hole or you gon' cut it off. You gon' play through fourth and long or you gon' punt it off. Your defenders, heavy hitters, put your pads in. Don't be looking for the ref to throw no flags in. Keep the helmet on, keep the cleats tight. You the type to want to win by any means, right? You should look alive. This is Trap or Die.
Ooh, I thought I had it. Oh, he didn't back out. Welcome back to another episode of Trap or Die Podcast, man. I am your host of the Trap or Die Podcast, Mual, Coach Mual, Hand Dog Mual, man, all that good stuff, man. AJ is on the way. Dre is on the way. And whichever way you are listening, let's get the administrative items out of the way right quick while we're waiting. First and foremost, appreciate everybody who's been tapping in consistently to this point, man. Appreciate all the ratings and reviews we've been getting. Appreciate the consistency on YouTube, the comments, the feedback, all that stuff. Great. Love it. Make sure you hit that follow button. Make sure that like button as well on the video. Subscribe if you haven't done so. And on the audio side, man, if you got 2 seconds to leave a rating and review, we definitely appreciate that as well. It helps show you support, helps us know that people are listening, man, and got some comments on the show, man. Got some positive feedback on the show. So with that being said, let me get the fellas in here. They're just checking in. AJ, Dre, in here, man. Fellas, what's going on with y'all? How y'all feeling, dog?
Shit, full-blown football mode, dog, man. I've been waiting for this. What we been waiting, like 7-8 months for this, man. Tonight is the night. This Sunday is the day. Bro, hey, you can't tell me nothing this weekend. I'm all, hey, look, if my man Mual I'm turning up too.
I'm about to say, Dre be talking that shit, man. Talking about some, where the drink at, man? I got the drink for you,
Montel come on. That's my man. Montel be drinking with me. You know what I'm saying?
Montel ain't gonna let you down, bro. He always got the yak on deck, bro. He always got the yak on deck. AJ, man, what's going on with you, player?
Cooling, trying to get on this computer so I could be seen. You feel me? But
yeah, man, you've been a black screen all summer, bro.
Yeah.
Other than that, I'm just chilling, man. Not drinking on anything but some essential water.
Did all this drinking in Colombia? That's what it was.
Hey, he turned up enough.
Hey, man, I'm a social drinker. I can't just drink just for the hell of drinking. Like,
okay.
Well, I can't.
Right.
Hey, no I know you can. So hey.
Now I get what AJ talking about though. Like honestly, like it really has to be a good day, or like I consider this social drinking. Like this is a social drinking for me. Like I have a little drink if I got a bottle in the crib, but if I'm sitting down chilling by myself, bro, yeah, you ain't gonna see much drinking.
Right.
Who is this? Is checking there? Monty, what's going on with you, player? Appreciate you checking in. Appreciate everybody who just checked in as well. We have Alex Clancy coming through around 7:30 to help us preview the Arizona Cardinals side of things. Man, we're going to talk to him for a little bit, literally, and get his thoughts on where the Cardinals are heading into this week 1 matchup, and obviously his thoughts on the game altogether. But fellas, man, before we get into the game itself, I think we can start off with the season preview. Obviously last week we already talked about like our outlook in terms of like if anything has changed for us from the offensive side of things or defensive side of things. But when it comes to this week 1 matchup, we can put that on pause and kind of discuss like some bigger things for the team. And I think if we start out with like our best case, worst case scenarios, right? Not necessarily for one aspect. If we start with the offense, right? Like, what is a worst case scenario for the team, or like the best case scenario for the team in terms of 2023? To kind of paint a picture in terms of worst case, I think a worst case scenario for me would be not necessarily the fact that the quarterback failed, right? I think that Sam Howell was already a project to begin with because of the circumstances that he's walking into, and because of the situation that he was provided. He's now, granted, he has a ton of experience surrounding him. Eric Bieniemy is a Super Bowl winning head coach. Super Bowl winning offensive coordinator 2 times. And for him to have that experience as a first-time, full-time starter is very good. So I don't think if the project fails with Sam Howell, that's not going to be a deterrent. It's going to be a little bit more challenging and frustrating given our history. But I think something for Washington in the worst case is if they aren't able to protect Sam Howell, or if they lose in the trenches once again. Like, I liked what I saw from Sam Cosmi in the interior. I actually thought that Nick Gates was cool. And I think I leave that there in terms of the interior. We got to see what Sadiq Charles looks like in his full-time role. But I think if ultimately this offensive line isn't able to sustain anything, I have no questions about Cole Turner or the wide receivers. The running backs, I don't have a huge fear of. I don't think that they're a detriment. I don't think they hurt this team. I think that they're going to be okay. But if this offensive line isn't able to hold up and look any semblances of what Washington looked like last year in the trenches, I think my worst case scenario is if that happens. And I'll do best case, because we can do best case, worst case all together. I think my best case scenario for Washington is if Sam Howell is able to overcome all of that. And what I mean by that is, like, sort of offensive line is shaky, like mid-tier, middle of the pack, or maybe let's say bottom half of the league. I'm not going to say bottom 20 or bottom 5, but bottom half of the league. I think that if Sam Howell is able to overcome all the deficiencies that's surrounding him and still prove to be a playmaker, like, the best case scenario is an offense who not only, let's go ahead and where's he at? My bad. Okay. Not only for Washington seeing Sam Howell, we got a little issue player. But if Sam Howell's able to overcome all of those situations surrounding him, or maybe a middle tier offensive line, you're going to see an offense, because of the weapons that they have surrounding him, be able to flourish in terms of like production, points, efficiency under Eric Bieniemy. So I think from a player standpoint, that's my best case, worst case scenario, is if Sam Howell is able to overcome his surroundings, if they do fall or do fail him. And then obviously worst case is if that offensive line doesn't look or looks somewhat the same as last year's.
I'll go. For me, worst case scenario, and this is because I've been kind of saying that this season is more so a win-win, just because you have new ownership, and in case you're not a Ron Rivera fan, it's possible if Ron Rivera fizzles out, then you're getting a new head coach and a new staff. But if Ron Rivera is winning, then you're having a fun season as a fan. Winning football is fun. So with that said, the worst case scenario for me will be Sam Howell just being mid. If he's mid, then you can't. You're probably good enough to win 7-8 games, which is, what you don't want with this team anymore. You want them to just be either really bad or you want them to be really good, of course. But if they're mid again, then you still may not even know what you have in Sam Howell. Like, you may still be like, oh, well, he was decent. He was Taylor Heineke good or whatever, and he's still young. And you may still have some people that believe in him, but there's going to be a lot of doubt still. So, I mean, he has to, be definitive, in my opinion, one way or the other, for me, at least for this season, to be a success. Whether it's bad, okay, cool. We're in the Caleb Williams territory. But if he's really good, then, hey, we may have found that guy, which leads me to my best case scenario. Best case scenario is Sam Howell absolutely proven to be the guy. And then not just because, we need a quarterback and we want him to be the guy and we want to stop answering this question, but more so because what that does to this team is it takes them from a fringe borderline playoff team to now you may be competing with the San Franciscos and the Philadelphias in the NFC. We're talking if Sam Howell is really good and he's a franchise quarterback, because you're just looking with the rest of the roster. Obviously, you love the receiving group. The tight ends, you may have a guy or two there. We don't know yet. That's a big question mark. Offensive line obviously is a big question, but if Sam solves that, question, because then you have a defense. You have a ready-made defense, that should be they're already a playoff defense, which should be. But if you have that quarterback and that guy on offense, like Sam is that franchise guy, like I said, you're competing with San Francisco and Philadelphia. So that's best case scenario for me.
AJ, if you heard us, or if you didn't hear, excuse me, we're talking about best case, worst case scenario for the offense this year. What would that look like for you?
I mean, the best case for this offense is to be within the mix at least at minimum top 20. I mean, last year the offense was so bad that, I mean, it can't really get any worse than that. I feel that Sam Howell at least has the ability to kind of create somewhat outside of the pocket. He has a stronger arm. They're running more of a modernized NFL style offense than running the ball and getting 2 yards per carry and not really attacking the middle of the field and utilizing your playmakers. So I feel like you really can't fail in this situation, no matter the lack of experience Sam Howell has as an NFL starting quarterback. They're pretty much already kind of set to go. It's just, how does the relationship work between Ron Rivera and Eric Bieniemy when it comes to the offense? Are we really going to see him have full control of that? Is he going to allow Eric Bieniemy to be aggressive in situations? I thought it was positive in the preseason, seeing them utilize the 2 minutes. In the past, we didn't really see Ron Rivera and company, really try to be aggressive and move the ball downfield. It was more so we're too scared to mess up and have the field flip. So, those are my main concerns with the offense and things that I'll be looking for as the season goes on. How much control does Eric Bieniemy have if he wants to go for a 4th and 4? If he wants to be aggressive in this 2 minutes or less than 2 minutes, it could be 1 minute and 10 seconds on the clock. Like, is EB really going to get his real voice heard in those clutch situations? Because as we all know, Ron Rivera doesn't call the offense, doesn't call the defense. So if you're going to be a manager, I would hope that you would give those guys that are calling the plays and who have a better pulse on the tempo of the game, the leeway.
Best case, worst case for the defense. AJ, I'm a round robin or snake draft this thing, I guess. I think that's the right word. So you got the floor again. What's the best case, worst case for the defense?
Best case for the defense is that their pass rushers, as far as edge rush, they show up and they produce high volume numbers. We already seen Jonathan Allen and Daron Payne put up double-digit sacks within this defense. Now, if we can get everyone as a collective to be in double-digit sacks, that improves the back end as well. That means that they're doing a good job and possibly creating more turnovers. I think that's what you want to see out of Emmanuel Forbes. That's the best case scenario for them. The worst case is you're back to the 2022 season and not creating turnovers. Like you're playing somewhat okay defense, but you're not creating those turnovers. I think when you draft a guy like Emmanuel Forbes in the first round, you're really saying to your fan base and also to your team, we need more defensive playmakers. We need guys that can get their hands on the ball. Pause. But that's essentially what you're saying when you commit to Emmanuel Forbes first round. You commit to another D-back in Quan Martin. You're saying that we need to make more plays on the ball. We need to get interceptions. We need strip sacks. We need, forced fumbles. We need to recover those. So I think that's kind of how I see it for the season on the defensive side.
Dre, where you at with this one?
I'll start off with worst case. I mean, for me, worst case is if the certain injuries that we've heard about kind of flare up early in the season. Of course, there's some key guys. Chase is dealing with the stinger. We don't know how that's going to affect him. I mean, Ron has been kind of coy about his status. And then you have Jonathan Allen with the plantar fasciitis. I mean, that could be something. I mean, he's still practicing, but that could be a thing that may show up and flare up. And, if we get off to a slow start, which has been our issue on defense for the last few years, that could be detrimental because obviously we're playing a gauntlet of games after the Arizona team. So if the defense is getting off to a slow start again, that could mean this team is starting off 1-3, 1-4, because that has to be the backbone, at least because with the offense still being a question mark right now. Best case scenario is Chase Young breaks out and he takes this defense to the next level. I've been saying it before and saying it again. You get a game record like Chase to finally live up to his potential with the other guys you have on defense, especially you just drafted Forbes, you drafted Quan Martin, the guys that are supposed to start helping you turn the ball over. A game-breaking Chase Young means this defense is going to start turning the ball over more. They're going to start committing, forcing more turnovers, and this is what you want. And this is going to make you that team, at least it's going to have you that elite top 5 defense, and that could hinge on Chase's success. I mean, if Chase is just mid, then you'll probably see still a really good defense, but it's not going to be at the top level you think it could be. But if Chase is who you think he's supposed to be, and this is the year he's supposed to break out, that takes the defense to the highest level I think it can go, and that's the best case scenario.
Bro, that's like Chase. The Chase one is such a good. Let me just add on top of that then in terms of best case. Then I'll say, in addition to your Chase, best case, I think the best case for me, in addition to the Chase, is like the defense repeating as top 5 statistically and like on tape. Like it's not a fluke thing. It's not a people are injured or circumstances allowed them to be a top 5 defense. Like they are visibly and statistically a top 5 defense in the NFL again. And I think for the team's success, I think obviously, as we all know, the more opportunities you give your offense, the better. But the more you do it for a rookie quarterback, essentially a rookie quarterback, who can use all the possessions that he could, and his offense can use all the best possessions that they can. I think that'll really do numbers for this team in terms of what like the competitiveness from a week to week basis, but also like how they can operate on like every single possession. Like the amount of for the offense, the amount of opportunities that they get, things like that, all that stuff. I said it. But worst case, I think for the defense is if the front 7 is in shambles. I don't know what's going on with Cody Barton. And I'm not going to keep like poking that bear. Like I'm not going to keep going down that lane because I just said it 1,000 times already. But at the same time, when it comes to that front 7, I don't know what the cohesiveness is going to look like once everybody is back, like at week 1, let alone a Cody Barton who had struggled in preseason, but also struggled catching up from a playbook and scheme standpoint in the offseason. So for me, my worst case is if that front 7 isn't locked in. And more importantly, if they aren't locked in from the jump, like the slow starts is bad in itself, but and they've been able to make up to some degree. But at the end of the day, if like people try to de-emphasize the impact of a run game, but if you can control the time of possession, but also control the tempo of the game and dictate, you can dictate the flow of the game and not the defense dictating how the offense has to respond. Like I think that's probably that's going to be their biggest issue is if they can't stop anything up front. And I think that's the worst case. More importantly, because we've seen what it looks like in 2021, and that's how bad it got real bad in 2021 after what was viewed as a successful defensive season in 2020. So worst case scenario is if that front 7 is in shambles, similar to that 2021 season. Let
me ask y'all a quick question. So is Sweat not hold to the same expectation as Chase? They're both first round picks, and actually Washington traded up to go get a Montez Sweat.
So what context are you speaking of? Like
I guess Dre said Chase being an X factor on the defense, is one of his expectations he's hoping for the season for the defense, right?
Right.
Now, so what I'm saying is they're both in contract years. So is Montez not held to kind of the same standard? Of course, like one is the second overall pick, but the other one also went in the first round, and they traded up. They traded back into the first round to select him. So is he what are your expectations as far as like Chase Young sack wise and Montez Sweat? Are they the same or are they different because of Chase being the number 2 pick?
Well, I mean, to be fair, I mean, it's not the same, honestly. I mean, because as you said, we drafted Chase Young with the number 2 overall pick. When we drafted Montez Sweat, even though, we traded up to draft him, and we really drafted him and made that trade up because they wanted to draft him and not draft Dwayne Haskins. So they still had to make up and get the guy that they wanted. But no, he was not drafted to be the face of the franchise. Like Chase didn't just come as, a first round defensive end or first round edge rusher. Chase came with the expectation that he was going to be the face of the franchise at the number 2 overall pick. And whether it was fair to him or not, he was labeled as a generational player. So you have higher expectations for this guy. Montez Sweat was more in the, we may have a freak type of athlete, and if he can get up, he can be this certain guy. Now, we are disappointed in Montez, at least to the point that we thought we would get more production out of him. And he hasn't been a bad player at all. He's very solid, but we've expected more out of him. But with Chase, the expectations were monumental. Like, they were through the roof for Chase, and rightfully so. And then he gave us that defensive rookie of the year, and which had fans, thinking, hey, maybe this is just scratching the surface. We're going to get a Khalil Mack type of guy. Now we're kind of downgrading the expectations for Chase because we haven't seen him the last 2 years. So now we're kind of putting him in the Montez Sweat category. Like, I hope that he at least just do what Montez Sweat does, in a sense. And that's lowering the bar for Chase. Like the bar was higher for Chase. So so the expectation of Chase was that he was going to be a game breaker. Now Montez, we didn't really have that expectation of him, but we had thought he had potential to be something like that. But with Chase came that this guy should be guaranteed, especially when you think about passing over the quarterbacks that you passed over in that draft. I mean, even if you say that, hey, they weren't going to draft Justin Herbert or, whatever the case may be, that conversation would have been on the table if Chase Young isn't there. They were going to converse about those quarterbacks. But with Chase Young on the board, the thought was, you're not looking anywhere else because this guy is the guy and he's ready-made to come in the NFL and, be a terror. We got 1 year of really high production for Chase Young. 2 years of injury and disappointment as well as the injury. And now in the 4th year, we are expecting at least more than half a return on that investment. So the expectations are definitely higher. And I think rightfully so, even though, like I said, it's fair to be disappointed in Montez Sweat and expect more of him, the expectations were just never as high for Montez Sweat as they were Chase Young.
I was waiting for
Oh no! I mean, I know we got so much more to go in the show. I ain't about to.
Nah, you good? You good?
Chase all day. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, we'll see what happens. You feel me? This season, like, they need to secure their bag. So you want to get your bag, you get them sacks.
That's another thing that I thought. I remember writing this article. Now, granted, it was the article. Like it wasn't like breaking down film, more so posing a question it was an elementary question, but it was a real question. Because honestly, AJ just mentioned it briefly, but you get paid on defense, like you get paid if you're on the front line, the first level or the third level. You get paid for sacks and you get paid for interceptions. Like I think for people to misunderstand, like for Chase to really like make a significant impact to the point where like he's going to warrant an extension or maybe a tag, however they want to play it to keep him on the team. Just put it that way. Like that determines that is something what Dre is mentioning. Like you have to come through like off rip and show that you are a game changer. And that's what's going to take for Chase Young. Now, I don't know like a sack number in mind. I don't have a sack number. I don't have those expectations in terms of like what he should do this year because I haven't seen him like play much. He only had 3 snaps on defense in the preseason. But to that point, for your future in Washington to be continued beyond 2023, Like, it does come down to numbers. It does come down to stats and like expectation level. I think that Montez Sweat had he's what's the word? Risen. His profile has risen since he's been in the league in terms of what he can do for a defense. But obviously, like, as we know, since we've been on this show, like he has a problem closing on his sacks and finishing plays. And also, to be honest with you, from my perspective, from what I see, and I've said this before, so it's not a secret, but like I think that like when the competition of tackles that he's going up against, they're just as good or better than him. Like, he doesn't really raise his level of play. Like, he can beat up on the tackles that are a little bit below him in terms of skill level, or he can beat up on the tight ends. He can run through the running backs, all those things like that. He may have an occasional win against a tackle just as good as him in terms of skill level, but like, he has some things going for him as well where there's pressure on him. There's pressure on both of those guys. I think the good thing for the team, though, is that they're cool as shit. Montez and Chase, like, there's no beef between them. Clearly, they work out together. They have the same agent, and I think that's what really bodes well for this team in terms of what they can do together on this defensive line. Like, I don't think there's going to be some selfish type of play from either one of these guys. I don't think that there's going to be any divisiveness in terms of locker room or even in meetings. So I think that's going to be really good for them moving forward, unless the pressure starts getting to one of them. Like, when the season starts and season comes towards the end of the road, and you're seeing what's actually about to happen based on production, then maybe animosity sets in. But to this point, I don't see it, and I don't think that's going to happen.
Hey, this is a great matchup to have one of those Ryan Kerrigan type of games where you just stat pad.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
And by the way, that was a little jab at Ryan Kerrigan.
Look, man. Just in my drink, bro. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into, matter of fact, since we on Chase, let's do one little messy topic, and then we'll get to like yardage and statistical projections. Chase Young or Ron Rivera, who's more likely to be here in 2024?
Chase Young.
Jay, you said Chase? Okay. AJ.
Chase Young, he lives in, he's from the PG County area, so he ain't going nowhere. Nah, let me stop. On a serious note, Chase Young, man.
Okay. So we got Monty saying Chase. By the way, everybody saying this. Oh, he says neither. Mike says neither. Appreciate everybody who's just checking in. Allow me to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe button. I'm asking the questions to AJ and Dre, but please feel free to comment your thoughts. Let us know where you thinking with some of these questions as well. So we got Mike saying neither. Monty says Chase. Josh just says AJ tripping, man. I wonder what you said for him to comment that. But
I don't even know that I care. At the end of the day, I just feel like you have a young player and like Dre touched on, a generational type of guy in Chase Young. You can't really just give up on that. Like he's experienced some injuries along the way, so you really haven't seen like the full benefit of him. And around Rivera, you got a washed up ass head coach that's going into next year would be his 5th year, which would be his final year of his contract. It's like, do you really want to extend that? Because it's a tricky situation. Let's say if Eric Bieniemy does what we expect him to do, possibly, right? And he finally breaks through the cracks and gets an opportunity to be a head coach. Do you want Ron Rivera to find the next OC? He's stuck with Scott Turner this entire time. The staff is a bunch of older guys for the most part. Do you really want to keep that type of guy around? Or do you want to possibly, if Bieniemy ends up succeeding, amplify his profile and promote him to head coach and tell Ron Rivera, hey man, we'll send you at the senior home like Dre's background.
Hey, bruh. Look, you're not lying. You already know where I'm. Look, Ron is. This is a matter of time with Ron, man. I'm counting down the Ron done fucked up again, but now new ownership is in place. I got the count. He up to 2 already. So I know with the season not even starting yet, he's going to add more to that list. Okay. Who do we think is going to actually? This is another easy one since we're on the defense still. Will an edge rusher have double-digit sacks this year? So, let us know in the chats. Will a double-digit sack guy come from an edge rusher? I know that Magic said he'll be comeback player of the year, so I would assume that Magic believes that he'll be a double-digit sack leader in terms of Chase Young. But fellas, where y'all at? Will Montez, Chase, or somebody else? Maybe Andre Jones or something like that. You know what I'm saying? What's the word? Will we have an edge rusher have double-digit sacks this year?
I mean, I want to say yes, but we rarely ever see it happen, and we've been kind of promised this, every year that we're especially between Chase and Montez, we're gonna break the sack record and all this, that, and the third. Yeah, I would just love for one of them to emerge as that guy. But I think if it does happen, and I guess just for the question's sake, I'll go ahead and say yes. For the question's sake, I'll say yes. And
leave it alone, bro. Leave it alone, bro. Leave it alone.
Are you laughing at the comment that just came in?
I'm laughing at your reaction to the comment, bro.
I forgot I was on camera, dog. I was like, all right,
what comment? Which one was that one?
My man, Mike checked there. Hold on, wait. Let me go ahead and bring it back up. He says that he believes the edge rusher is better than Chase.
I believe that.
Andre Jones.
Okay. I'm just now. I thought he was saying rookie Chase was better.
What Stephen A. say? Stay off the weed. The weed. Stay off the weed.
Hey, bro. But nah. I think what's bothering me is my logic versus like reality. Like my logic would lead me to believe you have two good pass rushers, and neither one of them to this point in their career, despite the injuries, just period, like they haven't had that double-digit sack season. Like in theory, I would say that they're due, but at the same time, it's like I know that people they aren't finishing, and I think it's a deeper science to why they don't finish, and I think and that's why it's like it's not like clear cut. It's just a deeper science to it. So like what that science is, like we only gonna know once their season is over. Personally, I believe once their careers are over and you can find what their true trends are. But right now it's like maybe they just haven't found a way to put it all together yet. And I hope that happens this year. But to answer the question point blank period, will a edge rusher have double-digit sacks this year? I'm gonna go ahead and say no on that one.
Yeah, it's kind of tricky, man, because it's like you're trying to secure your bag. You feel me? No matter if you're a first round pick or not, like we touched on earlier in this conversation, if you get interceptions, you're gonna get paid. If you get sacks, you're gonna get paid. Nick Bosa missed a whole season with a torn ACL, but he's produced at a high volume sack wise, and now he's the highest paid non-quarterback in the league as of yesterday. So it's like that's $34 million a year. You feel me? It's just more so about creating those sack opportunities. And like Mual touched on, yeah, they're not finishing. I don't really understand it. But I mean, if you look at a Sweat and Young in comparisons to like a Parsons out of Dallas, right? You can clearly see that all three of them are athletic. It's just that one is more athletic to the point where he can bend. Like being 6'6", 6'7", doesn't help, unless you really just that freaky of an athlete. When you're Micah Parsons, you 6'1", 6'2", you can bend, going against a Teron Armstead, a Trent Williams, whatever, and you can get to that quarterback much faster. Whereas Sweat and Young kind of got to do a bit more work with their hands and leverage. So it makes it a bit harder for them. But I mean, at the end of the day, I think that they're in a battle to make sacks on the quarterback and get their bag. Like I think they both want to be paid. They both want to be respected in this league. They're best friends. Now it could become some type of issue if they don't stay disciplined within their assignments, because they are playing some mobile quarterbacks, in your division alone. Each guy with the Cowboys, Eagles, the Giants, they can create outside of the pocket. are you going to play disciplined enough to where you don't get outside of your gap? And we've seen that happen a lot with Chase and Sweat over the years, and chasing that bag. You know, they know exactly what we're talking about. If they get the sacks, they're going to get cast out.
Well, AJ,
if it's not by Washington, by somebody.
AJ, let me ask you this. Would it be fair, because you brought up Bosa, to have the expectations for Chase to be Nick Bosa, or can give us similar production to what Bosa gave us out of injury? Would that be fair to Chase?
I don't know Bosa's stats off the top of my head. What was his?
I mean, it was crazy, but I mean, it was game breaking. You know, I mean, I don't know if it was record breaking, but it was game breaking stats. I mean, he had the numbers. I mean, he put up the pressures. He had the impact. But what I'm saying is, would it be fair to kind of expect Chase, now this year to say, hey, you have to be this, at least this or close to it?
Man, I don't think it'd be fair because you haven't seen it yet. So for a guy to go from 10.5 sacks, what was that, rookie year, to then the following year, maybe 4 sacks, to now you see this explosion of possibly 15, 16 sacks, he'd probably be getting drug tested every day. Like, because it's just not necessarily like realistic. Like, they have a formidable front four, but as Mual touched on, he said front 7, but it's really like a front 6 because they plan on playing 2 backers. Like, it's so much that has to happen right for them in a sense, for them to get like over 12 sacks. Or if we're just focusing on Chase himself to be such of a disruptive force with sack totals. He can still be disruptive, but it may not come necessarily with high volume of sacks.
One quick thing, and I'll move on. Yeah, you're right. To kind of be more specific, front 6. I guess if you want to add the 7, you could do the Buffalo nickel move with whoever, Cam Curl or Khalil Hudson, whoever they wanted to play that role. But front 6 for sure. And for the last one, because I did see Alex Clancy pulling up. Let's see what this one looks like. Most receiving yards on the team. I think this is a really good one because Jahan, man, I've been saying it for a minute. Y'all know how I feel about Jahan. Y'all know how I feel about Jahan. Y'all know how I feel about Cole. Excuse me, Cole Turner. And I don't think Cole is good enough to the point where he can lead the team, especially at tight end with the skill positions the weapons that Washington has at wide receiver. But Jahan is a guy where it's like he's so nuanced and versatile in what he can do. It's hard to really, at least right now, to sit here and say that defenses will have an answer for him every single week. And it will be hard to say that defenses can really just cover him with whichever corner is on that side, wherever he aligns. Like, he's going to get some attention, whether that's double teams, brackets, or like having a star corner travel. Like, that's going to be one thing to monitor. But I think Jahan is going to have some attention on him this year. So in terms of receiving yards, who's going to lead the team in receiving yards? I'm going to stand 10 toes on what I've been saying since last year. Jahan is going to be the person that has more receiving yards than Terry. And ultimately, we're not bringing injuries into the equation. He's going to end up leading the team in receiving yards this year for me. Fellas, where y'all at with who's leading the team in receiving yards?
Hey, I'm with you. I'm a huge Dotson fan, and I think this is his breakout year incoming. I mean, again, we still don't know what Sam Howell's going to bring to the table on a game by game basis, but I think what you will see in Sam Howell, he's going to give guys a chance. He has the arm strength to get the ball to guys like Jahan, especially in space. And I think Jahan is just going to emerge as that dude, especially in certain situations, because he's slippery. He's a hell of a route runner. He's going to be clutch, in those third down situations, even the red zone. We saw that last year. But again, he got hindered by injuries last year. But I think a fully healthy Jahan Dotson, he leads this team in receiving. But I don't think it's going to be like some astronomical numbers over Terry, because I think Terry's still going to get his. But I do think that Jahan is just going to have that type of season this year.
Yeah, I think if Terry didn't have this turf toe thing going on, I would say him. I think he would finally get the freedom to move around in the offensive scheme that he hasn't experienced yet in the NFL. But unfortunately, man, with this turf toe, it's going to linger throughout the year. So it's all about the management of that. So I would probably say who could possibly stay healthier the most could be Dotson, but he also experienced his own injury situation in his rookie year. Yeah, I'll probably have to go. Damn.
You just don't want to go with us, right?
Nah. So this what I'll do. I'll say that Terry had more receiving yards, but Dotson had more receiving touchdowns. Because I feel like if Terry can muster through the season with the turf toe thing, he'll be going against most teams' number one corner. And Dotson, on the other hand, to go against the number twos, and most number twos really not going to be able to stick with Dotson like that.
All right, that's cool. I mean, Jahan is crazy though, because I don't. That's fair, because like Jahan is like one of those red zone threats that it don't matter. Like he don't have to be 6'5". Like that motherfucker know what he's doing, bro. He can break you down at the release point, at the top of the route. He can win at the catch point, mash your ass. Like he can do it all, and he only 6 feet tall, bro. Like that's a red zone threat if I ever seen one, bro. So I get it. Okay. So I was still waiting on Alex. Let's go ahead and start diving into Arizona, the preview, and things like that. Where are we at with this game? AJ, you asked a good question earlier. I guess I'll give my general thoughts and then answer your question. I'll pose the question to everybody too. Matter of fact, chat. AJ asked this. What? Let me pull up the question. What did he ask? What if the Commanders lose to the Cardinals? What should happen? So Chad, if you all in here, what if the Cardinals lose to the Commanders? I said it wrong.
No, what if the Commanders?
It's two C words, bro. What if the Commanders lose to the Cardinals? What should happen? Let us know what y'all think about that in the chat. But overall about this game, man, I'm excited to see this game. Not necessarily about the matchup itself, but I'm excited for all Commanders reasons, all Washington reasons. I want to see what this fan base looks like now that they're rejuvenated. It's a sold-out crowd. They've been preaching about it for like the past week. I want to see that. I want to experience that. Now, I did want to go to the game in hindsight. Like I've always thought about going, like if I should get a ticket or not, just to experience that first game without Dan Snyder and the vibes and the energy in the stadium. Point being, all that aside, I can still feel that love through the stadium. I mean, through the TV screen. So I would love to just see what that environment looks like on television. I would love to hear how the crowd is on a down-to-down basis, especially on defense. I want to see how energetic they are. I want to see how energized they are. That's from a fan standpoint. But from the team, man, I can't wait to see what Bieniemy rolls out in the first game. This is a team, again, you're going against the Cardinals team who is projected to be the first overall pick in the NFL draft to this point. Like they made moves to suggest that they're considering tanking. Perspective wise. And I don't know what that's going to really look like for them, if it's true or not. But at the same time, like I'm excited for all the reasons that sides on Washington. Now I'm not stupid. And side note, while we're here at Pause, go to the YouTube channel and look at the few players on Arizona's side of the ball that you need to be focused on, because they're not sweet. Like the quarterback situation is one thing, but they got weapons. And that's going to be very important for us, because if you can't stop these guys, you're going to have a long day. So check out the YouTube channel, Trap It Out YouTube channel. Go to the film session playlist. You'll see the latest episode up there as well, breaking down those 4 players in particular. But yeah, man, I'm very excited just from a fan standpoint to see what these guys are going to look like in week 1, how prepared they are, but also how Bieniemy and how it performs, but also how the fans liven up that stadium. What will happen, or what should happen if they do lose? I don't think anything should happen. I already thought that Ron Rivera was on the hot seat. I think that was a given, knowing his record here in Washington. Despite what he went through, the new ownership ain't really got nothing to, like, that ain't their problem. Sure, they may be they may sympathize, be like, yo, I'm sorry you had to go through this, but you still got a job to do. Like, your main job is to be a football coach. So I don't think nothing will happen. He's already on the hot seat. I just think that starting out 1-4, 1-3, 2-6, 1-5, like how he's done in previous seasons, that is where we need to resurface the conversation of what should happen. But against the Cardinals in week 1, I don't think anything should happen. I think this is a must-win game for Washington, right? I think this is a must-win game for all the momentum that they have going forward, because you don't want to get thwarted by an Arizona Cardinals team who just really ain't got shit to lose. You need to go ahead and dead them off rip. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. I don't think anything should happen. Fellas, I got the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I think, man, if Sunday 4:35 p.m. we do a post game show and it's an L, boy, it's going to get ugly for this fan base. Like, I mean, I don't see anything realistically happening. But at the end of the day, it just would not be a good look. Like, someone's definitely gonna have to take the blame. But I think you can't take any NFL team for granted. Yeah, the way that the head coach for the Cardinals has handled the quarterback situation, as if like he's doing some type of magic trick with announcing his starter, is weird. But at the end of the day, it's still guys on that Cardinals team, man, that are trying to secure their bags, trying to play for their family, trying to play for their namesake. They still got some dogs. James Conner is no slouch. DJ Humphries is one of the offensive tackles. Then you add in Paris Johnson. May not be the best technician, but he plays hard. He wants to show off for his rookie debut, his first NFL game. You still got Hollywood Brown, still run a 4.2 something if he plays. Yeah, you still got playmakers that you got to go against, and some guys that you may not even know of that are capable of making plays, like a Michael Wilson, who's a rookie wide receiver. So you can't just sit down and take them for play. You feel me? You still got to respect them and do your thing. And that's where Ron Rivera, the head coach, has to step in and motivate these guys to realize that, just because they're going through their season of change doesn't necessarily mean anything. We're both 0-0, to start week 1. Get those guys motivated to go out there and play and show they ass off, because the main thing that NFL fans are waiting for is for this team to possibly lose to the Cardinals and be like, hey, y'all still suck, even if you got a new owner or not.
Yeah, I'm just excited, man. Week 1, opening week, always, even if you think your team's going to be bad, you, as a fan, you have some kind of hope, or at least, man, maybe, we could shock somebody this year. But I mean, this season, it's not really much expectations in a sense to say, oh, I think we're going to be this playoff contender. It's just more so we got a lot of mystery and intrigue, and that's kind of what I'm excited about, because like I said, we don't know what Sam Howell, can bring to the table on a game-by-game basis. Eric Bieniemy's new, but he's exciting. He's a new toy. I mean, he's got a lot to prove. So you want to see how that offense looks, under these two, and then you just want to see the sense of urgency this team comes out with. Again, I mean, the slow starts, the start of regular seasons under Ron Rivera has been underwhelming, so now we're ready to see if, he's his make or break year for him and his coaching staff, his regime. How do you come out? How are the guys going to respond to you and be ready for the season? Now, to answer AJ's question, if you lose, there's two things you do. First, you can be pissed off and upset and angry that you just lost to a team that you should have, been able to overwhelm on opening day. Second thing you do is you just immediately start getting excited and say that you're in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, because if you lose to this Arizona Cardinals team, you're not a serious football team. I mean, I do think, it would take a lot for Arizona to win. I mean, you shouldn't be surprised by any team that can win a game on any given Sunday in the NFL. But again, there's so much momentum going for this Commanders franchise right now. Like I said, the fan base is going to be super energized. You're going to be you're going to have a sellout crowd at this game. And then you have, they don't even have a starting quarterback. the Cardinals. I mean, obviously the coach is going through this little game as, who's going to start. He doesn't know for the competitive advantage, but neither one of those guys are, known to be any kind of starting quarterback in the NFL in Tune and Dobbs. So, that's another thing going on. You're supposed to have a fired up defense. Like defense is ready to go out there and hit guys. I mean, like AJ mentioned, yeah, you have DJ Humphries at left tackle, but then you have Paris Johnson at right tackle. Yeah, he's a rookie's first round, but this is when those edge rushers, Montez and Chase, are going to have to show their experience and their veteranship in this game. I remember 2 years ago when we opened against the Chargers, I think they had a rookie tackle and that guy stonewalled the hell out of our defensive ends, in that game, in the game we thought we were probably going to take advantage of the rookie tackle. So
it's light work for him.
Yes, exactly. So now you want to see in this game where the maturity and the growth is in Chase Young and Montez Sweat. Are they going to take advantage of going against this rookie tackle when they're lined up on his side? Even in the interior, I think the Cardinals are weak in the interior line. This is where John Allen and Daron Payne have to get off. So again, this is not a game. This is a game that will take a lot to go wrong for the Commanders to, go out here and blow it. So if they do blow it, then like I said, I wouldn't have much hope for anything in the season. And I don't know if I don't think Ron Rivera gets fired after game one. I do think that, he's definitely, that seat is flaming hot to the point where if you lose to the Cardinals, you could go 0-4, worst case scenario with the schedule you have coming up, and Ron is gone. He can be fired at that point.
Hey, man, they lucky I ain't got $6 billion because if Ron Rivera lost week one, his ass wouldn't be going back to his house.
Well, AJ, you would have fired him last year. You would have fired him 2 years ago.
He would have never even got hired, bro. Like, he would have never got hired. Like, but
hey, I mean, it is what
he definitely knows his seat is hot. Like he feels it.
He's already putting his little pitch in, man. I don't care if we go 8-1 again, man. If we win the Super Bowl down the road, give me credit. That's exactly what he said, man.
But I got a whole nother question for that, but I know we got our guest with the Cardinals coming on.
Yeah. He's just checking in too now, so let me go ahead and bring him in. Alex Clancy is joining us now. The Locked On Commanders. Look, there you go. Locked On Cardinals, host of the Locked On Cardinals podcast and Locked On NFL podcast as well, man. Alex, man, appreciate you joining us. Let me go ahead and remove these overlays too. It's blocking your name. There we go. Boom. Alex, appreciate you joining us, man. How you feeling, boss?
I'm good. I mean, after what Dre just said, I don't know if I want to be here anymore, but I can't say that he's wrong either. So I'm kind of perplexed with my feelings right now. But no, I appreciate it.
Sorry, Alex.
No, you spoke the truth. There was not one thing you said that was incorrect. So
But listen though, let's actually dive into the Arizona side of things. Like, what's the temperature on the Cardinals? Not necessarily from a standpoint of week one, but like when Colt McCoy gets cut in the preseason, he's not a world beater. He's not like a top tier starter. But the idea of having Colt McCoy is like, all right, we're going to hold this in place until Kyler gets back, is what I'm assuming. But then you cut Colt. And now you're left with, at the time, just Clayton Tune, because you didn't have Josh Dobbs yet. Like, what is the vibes of what's going on with the Cardinals? Where are you all at? And trying to even predict how this season could go, unless it's just like, all right, we're tanking.
Yeah, I mean, I think at least for me, I'm just happy that the past regime is gone, that Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury are gone. So it's going to be a tough year win-loss wise, but that doesn't mean you can't see growth in other places. I thought Clayton Tune should have been the starter week one anyways. Colt McCoy has a noodle for an arm now. He's old. I mean, he served his purpose for the Cardinals. He was great for Kyler, especially when Cliff kind of had deficiencies in the leadership, ability. Colt McCoy was there for him. Clayton Tune can huck it. I mean, we saw it in Houston 2 years ago, especially if he would have come out. He probably would have been a second-round pick and wouldn't have dropped all the way to the fifth. But all in all, going into this season, it's going to be just a culture shift. Like, this is supposed to be the Arizona Cardinals in name only moving forward, because all it's been is this dysfunction, at least for the last 20 years, even though they've had a little success. It's always been with the restrictor plate that Steve Keim is GM and, Michael Bidwell is the owner. So going into Sunday, there's a lot of I don't knows. Like, you're going to ask me questions. I'm going to say, I don't know what the hell is going to happen, because we've never seen anything like this with such bad quarterback room right now. And this is not by design. This is by happenstance. And we're just going to kind of see what we're going to see when we see it on Sunday.
So, Alex, I wanted to ask you a quick question because you said that it's a culture change, but the owner is still the owner. Michael Bidwell is still there. Mm-hmm. And even in this offseason, you guys have had your own little scandal. Maybe not the Snyder type of scandal, but it's still there. It's still lingering. And even with the hiring of Jonathan Gannon, there was like issues with that where the Eagles and the Cardinals had to compromise on the situation of, you know, what transpired there, and gave a pick maybe the day before before the draft even started. How do you feel overall about Jonathan Gannon as the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals and the staff that he's ensembled so far?
I don't know. No, I mean, you know, so let me take your first part first because it's really interesting. So Michael Bidwell, like, the analogy that I use is, you know, when you go to a wedding and there's rain or, you know, whatever it is, and there's that tent that everybody's under, and it's like a wedding, but it's under a tent. Monty Ossenfort down from GM down to the players is going to be like that wedding tent inside of State Farm Stadium with Michael Bidwell's domain. So yes, Michael Bidwell's still the owner, but that doesn't mean that functionality can't be bred just with the GM down. What you want Michael Bidwell to be is a check signer. That's it. That's all you want him to be. And yeah, there were some things that he didn't do very well over the last, since ever he took over as owner, and those things should not be taken lightly, and maybe he'll be punished for it, whether it be a fine or suspension or whatever it may be, because whether it be the report card grades that he got or the, you know, discrimination and the terrible things he did in the workplace that cannot be taken lightly, like, football still needs to be played. And I think with Jonathan Gannon and Monty Ossenfort in place, at least you can look at it as a functional being inside of, you know, world dysfunction that's been the Cardinals. Now with Jonathan Gannon, I don't know if people remember this, but Patrick Mahomes is really good. And that was the quarterback that they were playing against in the Super Bowl. So yeah, maybe the defense fell short in the second half, which now he's getting all the blame for the Super Bowl loss. But all he's been since he's come in is a human being. And Cliff Kingsbury was pretty much a robot. Nice guy, total robot. You're getting weirdness, quirkiness from Jonathan Gannon like you got from Mike McDaniel last year. People are like, who the hell is this guy? He doesn't look like an NFL head coach. And then look at what's happened with Miami. So you can't really judge a book by its cover just because you haven't seen him as a head coach. So, like, I just want a leader as a head coach. And the Cardinals haven't had that the last 4 years. And I think so far, at least, Jonathan Gannon has been that. I mean, it's still TBD, but so far, so good.
Let me ask this one quick question right quick, because you mentioned this Cliff Kingsbury a couple times. I told AJ and Dre during the season last year, like, I was so excited every single time I saw a Cardinals game. Like, I saw it from start to finish, and I saw like a win or a loss. More honestly, when I saw a loss, I was very happy because I wanted to see the Hard Knocks in season reaction from Cliff Kingsbury, because I thought that he should have never been hired in the first place. So I'm like, what's going on over here in Arizona? Is this a situation, because you mentioned like you wanted a real head coach, you stated that, so obviously I would say you weren't in favor of Cliff, but like, how did you interpret Cliff from a standpoint of like after losses? I felt like everything was all it was like he was scared to address the team. Like he had the same repetitive or recycled phrases, and then he would assign somebody to lead the team in a huddle or a speech, and he'd walk off. And I'm like, I don't know if anybody, like, how do you face the music? Like, you're not, I don't even know if you're addressing your team or if they even like really respect you in this manner, because you just keep walking off after a loss, or you keep just saying the same thing, like, hey, we're gonna be okay. All right, guys, it wasn't our result. Hey, huddle, close it out, and he just walks off. So like, what was your impression of Cliff? And we'll get back to 2023.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna hear my greatest hits. He was a student who failed calculus and then got promoted to AP Calc.
Oh Lord!
Like, he's never been a winning head coach at any level. Nice guy. It's never a personal attack that I always have to clarify. He's a nice dude. Interviewed him a few times. Like, nice guy. Not an NFL head coach. And one that you missed was, yeah, we got to watch the tape. I got to watch the tape. I haven't watched the tape yet. Whenever anybody would ask what was wrong, you got to watch the tape. Got to do better. Got to be better. Cliff Kingsbury.
Hey, Alex, that sounds like the head coach of the Commanders, Ron Rivera, because he tells the media all the time he got to watch the tape. as if he's calling plays on the offense and defensive side and not watching the game with his arms folded the whole time like a fan.
Mr. Ron Rivera not beloved in DC. What are we doing here? I mean, here's the thing. Ron Rivera at least had pedigree 85 Bears. He had pedigree, DC. I think he was the DC with the Chargers before taking the Carolina job. He had Super Bowl pedigree. And now, I think it'd be a lot worse. Like, I will leave you to your Ron Rivera because you know him a lot better than I do. But yeah, I think with Cliff, like, it was more like, why are they winning when they were winning? Why are they losing when they were losing? And the problem is nobody knew. And my biggest thing with Cliff Kingsbury, and I could be completely wrong because this is what I've been writing for, 1,400 days now almost, is Kyler Murray wins in spite of Cliff Kingsbury and not because of him. And Kyler Murray's growth in this league is because he hasn't had an ecosystem surrounded by a coach that could actually coach him at an NFL level. So when Kyler Murray played well, they won. When the defense turned the ball over, they won. I don't think it had anything really to do with Cliff Kingsbury. My favorite thing to say about him was Cliff Kingsbury could put together a great movie trailer, but the movie wasn't always that good. Like if you watched Entourage with Medellin, it's a perfect example. Like the movie trailer is fantastic, but when he can call a couple plays here and there, but the overall movie usually trash.
Quick,
you got it, AJ.
If I could answer a quick question. So with you saying that, I mean, I've watched some Cardinals games over the year under the Cliff Kingsbury regime.
Mm-hmm.
With Kyler Murray, do we feel like this new atmosphere, these new executives that are being brought in, like Monty and now the head coach again, they really want to see Kyler within their offensive scheme? Because of those reasons with Cliff?
I think they're all in. Jonathan Gannon's all in on Kyler Murray.
Okay.
Yes. Loves him.
Loves him. So then the follow-up is, are you guys running, of course, like I know the OC has a background of coming from the Vikings and the Browns.
Yeah.
But are you guys hoping to potentially get to the point where you're running something similar to what the Eagles did with Jalen Hurts when Kyler gets back on the field? Because I really don't know what to expect from the Cardinals offense on Sunday, because the two schemes that the OC has come from, I don't really feel like you guys have the personnel that matches with that at all. Yeah,
I mean, they're going to run a lot of 12 personnel. It's going to be a lot of play action. Like, think of this. Think of the Cleveland Browns the last 2 years with Kyler Murray at quarterback. It's kind of thing where it's like, okay, Jacoby Brissett, they won 4 games last year with Jacoby Brissett and not a lot of offense. They had injuries across the board. I mean, Amari Cooper was fine, but they have Donovan Peoples-Jones as their second. David Njoku had a breakout. Nick Chubb was fine last year. They won 4 games with Jacoby Brissett with this offense. If you can put Drew Petzing and Kyler Murray in the same room together and be able to have Kyler Murray under center and not clapping instead of saying hike like an adult that Cliff Kingsbury had him doing, like, this is an adult offense. They're going to run the ball between the tackles. They're going to run off tackle. They're going to set up play action, and they're going to throw the ball down the field with 2 tight ends, with Zach Ertz and Trey McBride. Trey McBride's going to be really good if he's put in the right situation. You can run 12 personnel with this team. So it's going to be an adult football offense and not a Madden on easy offense that didn't necessarily work all the time. It was fun with Cliff, the air raid, but this is an adult offense. So that's what it's going to look like. I mean, it's going to be boring. But with Kyler Murray comes back, now you have Joshua Dobbs and Clayton Tune, who are mobile guys. That was my reason for saying Clayton Tune should start, because think of him as like a practice squad quarterback until Kyler Murray comes back, going in through this offense kind of a way that Kyler Murray would, instead of having Colt McCoy who's going to stand back there like a statue. So, yeah, the offense is going to be interesting. All of this is still TBD. We don't really know until we see it on the field.
All right. Well, look, let me try and phrase this question to kind of give us some insight into what could happen in week 1. And Alex, I appreciate your time, man. I know you had a hell of a day. But you made some time out for Trapper Dive, man, in Hogs Haven. So I definitely appreciate you. I guess I'll ask you this. Based on what you've been able to observe through training camp, what you've been able to observe through preseason, I know the starters mainly played against the Kansas City Chiefs. for the most part, especially on the offensive side of football and the offensive line as well. What can you expect against the Washington Commanders? And what is your prediction? But also, I'll add in this: how does Cardinals fans not necessarily perceive them in terms of just the matchup itself, but how do they perceive the Commanders? Like, is this a team that y'all wouldn't be surprised if you all beat? What's the vibe on how the Commanders are being perceived within the Arizona circle and community and things like that?
I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but for me, all I'm looking at is the front seven. And I think that's pretty obvious. Like that's the strong suit. It's Montez Sweat, Deron Payne, and Chase Young. I did a couple podcasts actually yearning for the Cardinals to trade for Chase Young. It's like, okay, give him a third and a fourth. They don't want him. Like Chase Young, I know, is soured. All he needs is one 10-game pocket where he's Chase Young from his rookie year, and you guys are going to love him again, right? So when you look at him, on the other side of the football, and now you have an offensive line with Paris Johnson Jr., never played before, 6th overall pick. DJ Humphries, left tackle, getting older. The interior of the offensive line has been a problem for the Cardinals for years, even though they've updated it a little bit. All it is the front set. That's it. That's all I'm seeing. Because the cornerbacks for the Cardinals aren't great. They didn't really focus on that this offseason because you can't focus on everything. Terry McLaurin's back. Jahan Dotson, that's going to be a terror regardless. So it's me, the front seven versus the offensive line. That's all I'm thinking about. And if the Cardinals can overcome the Commanders' offensive line and get to Sam Howell, who's never started an important game in his career yet. So those are the two. It's really just the lines on both sides.
What do you see in terms of your prediction for the game? Is this are you predicting a Commanders win or is it a Cardinals win, or is the Cardinals upset? What's the vibe? What are you thinking about this one?
I'm thinking 30-13 Washington. I think is about right.
Lord. Yeah. Last time somebody predicted a blowout for Washington, we lost.
It's not Sam Howell's fault that he had two awesome running backs in college. The dude can huck it, and he's got guys. He's got playmakers, Brian Robinson, Antoine, all you guys need is a court. There's no reason why with your skill position players now that you don't contend for the NFC East. Now, it just depends on how Sam Howell can play. If you pop Kyler Murray healthy there, you win the division, or you're there winning the division. If Sam Howell can be that guy and not lose games for you, kind of like how Taylor Heineke started until he actually had to play every week and it wasn't as fun, you guys can win a bunch of games. So that's why a 30 burger, I don't think maybe that has a defensive touchdown included. But, I don't think a 30 burger is that far-fetched.
Hey, Alex, are you also a fan of this team besides just covering them?
I grew up in LA. I lived in San Diego and I moved out. I've been doing sports radio in Phoenix for 12 years. You always want the team that you cover to succeed. It's just more fun. You want them to be great or you want them to be bad. Yeah. Somewhere in the middle, it's always kind of so I always want them to succeed, but I'm not going to shoot rainbows and butterflies of people's rear ends if that's not what's actually happening.
I respect that.
Yeah. But I mean, you know what? The thing is, though, with week one, who knows? If the Cardinals win 17-16, would I be shocked? No. I mean, it's week one. Nobody's played yet this year.
Yeah.
The preseason's a preseason. And Terry McLaurin kind of tips the scales even more for the Commanders. But yeah, I'm just stoked to watch football, man.
So I guess I wanted to ask you real quick before we get you out of here. You already made your prediction, 30-13. But I'm so intrigued by this Kyler Murray situation and what possibly could be the Cardinals having the number one pick or another top 5 pick. I love the trade that they did with the Texans. I don't know how that all played out. That was a massive get for them. But with Kyler Murray, let's say hypothetically the Cardinals end up with the number one pick in the 2024 NFL draft. And Washington, D.C.'s own Caleb Williams is coming out of college, because we've already heard kind of like the Eli Manning, John Elway thing, kind of like, oh, I'm waiting to see who has that number one pick because there's no lottery like the NBA. I may just stay at USC. If they get that number one pick, would you encourage the Cardinals to trade Kyler Murray and draft another quarterback in a Caleb Williams, kind of like what they did with Josh Rosen before they selected Kyler? Or would you tell them to keep it rolling with Kyler and build around him? Because as you stated in this conversation, they haven't really built an ecosystem around Kyler.
I don't know. That's the second one. That's the only one I'm going to do. Like with Kyler, so it's going to be predicated upon how much Kyler Murray plays this year and how good he looks. So that's the easy answer. So say he comes back in week 8 and they're 1-6 and he plays 3 or 4 games. They win 1 out of 4, but the team's so bad that it doesn't matter. Then it's really going to be a determining factor on if Jonathan Gannon has seen enough and Monty Osborne have seen enough to run with Kyler for the future. So they're going to have to eat money no matter what. He's going to be expensive the next 2 years on the cap no matter what. Now, put it this way. What's more beneficial? What's more valuable? Say they have the first and second overall pick. Like say like perfect case scenario. They have Houston's pick and they have their own pick. First and second overall. Drake May plays well. Caleb Williams plays well. Spencer Rattler plays well. And then another quarterback plays well. So there's 4 guys that quarterback hungry teams, maybe like the Commanders, are going to look at and be like, yo, we need one of those guys. Okay. The Cardinals could get 3 firsts and 3 seconds and a player for first overall pick. It's going to be the biggest haul in the history of football. Maybe not the oh my God, what's his name? The Herschel Walker trade, but like for a first overall pick, it's going to be 3 firsts, 3 seconds, whatever anybody wants for Caleb Williams. 15 teams are going to want that pick.
Yeah.
That's one. They have the second overall pick. You could draft Marvin Harrison Jr. there, or you could take 2 or 3 more first-rounder picks and move down 2 picks and draft Marvin Harrison there. So they could get legitimately 6 first-round picks for those 2 picks and still draft the best wide receiver in the draft. That's the ideal, and then keep Kyler Murray. And then with that, say you run with Kyler in 2024, you use 2 of your 3 first-round picks that you have for each of the next 3 seasons and trade for a quarterback. Like, you don't have to keep Kyler forever if it doesn't work just because you pass on Caleb Williams. You know, like, the world is their oyster with this. They just need to figure out if Caleb Williams is the guy. Like, dude, anybody would look good against the teams that Caleb Williams has played against so far. But we just need to see what he's like for the entire year.
Yeah, that's why it's so intriguing to me, because it's like the Cardinals are in a perfect situation to either build or to, in my opinion, to build around Kyler. Because like you stated, you get the first, if you get any pick in the top 5, you're getting elite player out of this next year's class, whether it be a Marvin Harrison Jr. or let's say Cardinals keep Kyler. You could get a wide receiver and Brock Bowers out of Georgia. Yeah. Like that's your ecosystem. So it's just intriguing to me. I know we really can't talk too much about what the Cardinals are going to do this year, as you really playing with like a 58 overall quarterback in Madden as your starter. But I do like the kid, Michael Wilson. I think he's going to have a good game against the Commanders on Sunday, by the way.
Yeah. No, agreed.
Alex, man, I appreciate you sticking around with this, man, and chopping it up for a little bit. I want to give you the floor before you get out of here to just plug in anything and everything that you got going on. And look, man, enjoy your weekend. Hopefully you ain't got a busy Friday, because Fridays are for relaxing, regardless if you actually working on that. But plug the floor is yours, boss man.
I appreciate it. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Clancy's Corner, Locked on Arizona Cardinals, Monday through Friday, free wherever you get your podcast, and on YouTube. I appreciate you guys having me. Sorry about being a little late.
Oh, no problem, boss man. Appreciate you just joining us, man. So stay safe, man. Enjoy your weekend, boss.
I appreciate it. Likewise.
Yes, sir. All right, so there goes Alex, man. AJ, let's get out of here with a quick prediction of the game. Score prediction. I'll go first. And MVP. I guess that's kind of how we used to do things. It's been a year, but game score prediction. I'm gonna go. I'll go 24-13 Washington. I think the MVP, my boy Cole Turner, man, got the breakout game against the Arizona Cardinals, but I'm got to tell the world I told you so that this motherfucker dogs. I'm gonna go Cole Turner, man. Cole Turner MVP, bro. 24-13. Washington start 1-0. I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, I'll probably go. I want to say 23-10. I think the MVP of the game will be Jahad Dotson. I think also the defense. I think the pass rush overall from Payne, Sweat, Young, Allen, I think that they will be very impactful in the game as far as stopping the run and getting to the quarterback. Washington should end up with the W, and hopefully Sunday we'll be able to have great things to say, and they'll be injury-free on Sunday as well.
Boom. There it is, man. Hey, appreciate everybody who watched to this point, man. If you haven't done so, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Appreciate it, Dan. Appreciate you checking in, big dog. I hope all is well with you. Shout out to my man Drake London. Nothing special for real. He's just a dog, so I got to make sure he knows that, you know what I'm saying?
Hell, we talking about Drake London ass.
Don't worry about it, bro. Drake London, that my boy, bro. He about to have a big week 1, man. You know what I'm saying?
You must have him in fantasy league or something like.
Nah, but it's actually a good idea to check. I did an auto draft on the fantasy league for my job. I don't do fantasy like that, but I'm gonna see if they got Drake London sitting around. That's gonna be my boy. But yeah, that's it for us. Y'all stay.
Hey, shout out to Jahmyr Gibbs. He is about to go off in this game against the Chiefs.
Lions plus 6.5, baby. Let's get it.
I'm so excited to see how the Lions use him. I think you're going to see an Alvin Kamara, Christian McCaffrey type of debut from Jahmyr Gibbs tonight. That's what I'm most looking forward to in this game.
For a week 1 opener, but
hey, man, I think that boy get a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown tonight.
Let your boy do your thing, bro. But that's gonna wrap it up for us, man. Look, enjoy y'all weekend.
21, do your thing.
we finna be back post game talking about everything Washington Commanders, man, and the Arizona Cardinals week 1. So, see your boy AJ, man. He in a little good mood, man. I think we all in a good mood, bro. Football back, bro. So, I'm gone, bro. I'm gone.